When you realize what your future can be, you want to do it right. UCF Online offers more than 100 fully online programs, plus personalized support from success coaches, so you can get to the future that's right for you.
From the University of Louisville's Delphi Center for Teaching and Learning.
And the University of Central Florida's Center for Distributed Learning.
I'm Kelvin Thompson.
And I'm Tom Cavanaugh.
And you are listening to Topcast, the Teaching Online podcast. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Kelvin. How are things?
Things are good. I got a good cup of coffee in front of me. How bad could it be?
Yeah, I have a cup of coffee too. It's hot. The weather is overcast but lovely. I'm sorry you can't say the same, but
I mean it's lovely. I mean I'm looking outside right now at a glaring white landscape as the sun is beaming down on the snow-covered everything.
Yeah, well, there's a certain harsh beauty in that.
Yeah, that's right. So, dear listener, pull up a virtual seat and think along with us as we have this collegial conversation about online blended digital teaching and learning over a shared cup of coffee.
And my coffee is quasi-thematic, I think.
I love it. Love it. What you got?
Yeah, so I'm drinking a Green Mountain half calf.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little of this, and it's a little of that.
A little of this, a little of that.
To create one whole of something. It's a stretch. It's a stretch.
I think I get that. I'm gonna come back around on that. Okay. You wanna hear about?
Yeah. What's in your cup today?
my Great American Novel length description. My coffee today, Tom, is a single origin Costa Rica. It's called Finca Inés San Roque. It was a special fundraising edition from Los Angeles-based roaster Loquat Coffee to aid recovery efforts from the recent LA wildfires. And hey, look, I don't get any money from this, but as always, we'll put a link to the coffee in the online show notes. And while supplies last, coffee-loving listeners might consider a purchase to benefit LA recovery efforts, just to put that out there. But look, despite that noble purpose, I selected this coffee to bring into our virtual table today because it has a story.
Okay.
It's a story. It's a story involving quality, complexity, and confusion. I think you, Tom, and our listeners probably are aware that there are all manner of coffee competitions highlighting the best coffees, best roasters, best baristas, and so forth. And this particular coffee was nominated as the best coffee of the year a few years back by the Costa Rican Cup of Excellence competition. It was grown in Costa Rica, which makes it a single origin Costa Rica coffee. But as we've discussed previously, coffee plants, the varietals, can come from other parts of the world, even though they're grown in and benefit from the unique affordances of a particular geographic location. In this case, however, there were, I don't know why, but there were assumptions made. You know what happens there? Assumptions were made, and for quite some time, this award-winning coffee was somehow mistakenly classified as a varietal originally imported from Kenya. It was bought and sold under a label associated with Kenya. Mistakenly. Eventually, it was all straightened out, and the coffee I'm drinking got a new label to differentiate it from the actual Kenyan varietal already sharing that other label. And it turns out this coffee plant varietal was actually originally imported from Tanzania before being cultivated as the single origin Costa Rica in my cup today. Quality, complexity, and potential confusion. That's the story.
Wow. You've taken us on quite the journey with that story.
Indeed. I see our time is up for Topcast. I'm Kelvin.
Yeah, I think I get it. So definitely quality, complexity, and confusion is related to kind of some stuff we're talking about today. But also the fact that, what'd you say, like a varietal is made up of parts of other things. I think that could be in there too. So yeah, I think I get it.
Yeah, and the need for clarity. And I kind of get a little of this and a little of that kind of thing. So shall I try to set up today's conversation?
Yeah, bring it all home here.
So, dear listener, even at the time of this recording, in the year 2025, after arguably 30 plus years of online course existence, it can be difficult for various stakeholders to really understand what a good online course is. So today we're going to talk about some of the ways that we can better highlight and communicate, especially through tools like model courses, exemplary excerpts, or other portrayals of course design and learner experience and teaching behaviors, all that stuff, helping others grasp online courses. Is that what you were going to talk about today, Tom?
Yeah, by coincidence. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to talk about today.
Whew, that's good. It's always glad when that works out.
Yeah. And so, we've been talking about this and kind of in our planning for this episode, the idea that people still kind of ask, what is this online learning? And I think that was exacerbated by COVID, where everybody kind of had an experience of online learning and working that is in one particular bucket. And we've talked at length about that and the difference between emergency remote instruction and intentionally designed asynchronous learning. But if that's somebody's frame of reference, then they really don't understand what we do. And so how do you educate them? How do you communicate to new potential students what they can expect if they sign up for your online program? Well, how can you communicate to stakeholders like policymakers that online learning is as high quality as face-to-face? How do you convince your chancellor or president that this is something we should invest in because it's worthwhile and good and meets access needs or grows whatever, enrollment or revenue or whatever the goal potentially is? How do you serve all of those different audiences without signing them up for a full degree program? So this idea of the sample course, the Whitman's sampler of online learning. And I think, as I was saying to you last time we talked about this off camera, I've had a pitch from some of the team here to build something, kind of an exemplar course. And we'll get into the difference between sort of, the different flavors. But their original pitch was, we need something that we can show, policymakers and board members, and they need to understand it. And I'm like, that's great. There's not a single board member who's going to log in and go through a course. It's just not going to happen, right? They may have every good intention and want to. They're just not going to happen. So we need something to communicate to them what this experience is and the value that it brings, which is different than what you might give a student. A student might go through an hour module or something that gives them a flavor of what the program is. So all of that to say, there are multiple utilities of a sample course or an example course or some Whitman's box of different flavors of things that probably needs to find a place in your online learning enterprise if it doesn't already have one.
Yeah, I think that's all well said. And I agree with you that depending on your purpose and your audience, your approach might be different. There might be some one stone, many bird kind of efficiencies, but generally I tend to agree that what you might aim for with a student audience is different than like a board of trustees member, that kind of thing. But I do think that there are some broad commonality framings that maybe we should touch base on regardless of audience. Like, here's one I'll trot out, a Kelvinism. some things have to be experienced in order to be understood. And I think, to your point, ideally, that's kind of what it takes to grasp. But in the absence of a full experience, how can you shorten that distance a little bit? What can you provide that is, as you say, the sampler? It realizing up front that you're gonna do short shrift, So that's one sort of, I think, broadly stated principle that probably holds regardless of audience. Can I mention another one or two?
Yeah.
Our former colleague at UCF, now departed, Barbara Truman, who hired me at UCF many decades ago.
She chaired the search committee that hired me.
There you go. We both have something to owe Barbara. Barbara, I remember probably early in my time at UCF in the late 90s, I remember saying, this was true then, it may be true now. She said, there's no such thing as a perfect online course. And the context of that comment was we were trying to, in the midst of our faculty professional development, hold up aspirational examples, right? And so her context there was, so we pull exemplary excerpts from multiple online courses to illustrate key principles that we're trying to get, all of these faculty professional development participants to aspire toward. Here's Tom does a great job of this. Let's take a look at Tom's great job. Look at this, look at that. Oh, Tim does a great job of this. Sally does a great job of that. And nobody's firing on all cylinders 100% of the time, that sort of thing. And I've always kind of held to that. I thought, okay, there's some truth in that. But then it's hard to maintain those excerpts, and how do you present those excerpts without it become some Frankensteinian monstrosity?
Yeah, I remember having this exact same conversation. It was probably with you and Barbara, where we wanted to put sample courses out for students to see. And we had this debate of should we put the best possible thing we can to really put our best foot forward? Not to say every course at UCF is fantastic, but like every place else, there's a spectrum. There's some faculty that are just amazing and go above and beyond. There's all kinds of multimedia and all kinds of stuff in it. And then there's something that might be a little more typical. It is not bad. It probably meets every QM standard, but it maybe isn't as flashy. And that might be much more likely for a student to see more often in a program. Which one is the better one to put out there? And, I guess it sort of depends on the purpose. Yeah, are you trying to sell it, or are you trying to orient it? Have they already signed up, or have they not signed up yet? I don't know. And you also want to be ethical and all of the other things, but there is a school of thought, and I can make an argument on both sides of that debate on which one to do. And I think what we ended up doing is we showed a spectrum from different faculty, and then I think that led to the Nights Online videos, where part of it was faculty actually giving course tours. So we didn't actually put them into the course, but faculty kind of did a video tour of their course and pointed out the things they were most proud of, and that seemed to work well for a while. But now we're kind of back to maybe trying to do one of these sample courses. And I'll add one other thing. This one that's been pitched to me, which we're still debating, has evolved into something to show faculty, which is another audience, about what's possible. So here's VR tools and different kinds of interactive activities that you can put in your course, and things that they're probably not going to see by looking at their colleagues' courses because it's so new. And what we're trying to do is encourage them to do it. So the team is trying to make a case that we need to build it with some faculty that can be used in some courses, but we need to sort of initiate that so that we have examples to show faculty to encourage them to do more of it. And that's an interesting one too. That's newish for us in this whole evolution.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just to put another thing or two on the table, if we're talking about primarily asynchronous online courses, I think one of the particular challenges is the video thing helps a little bit, but whatever you show from an asynchronous online course, it tends to draw attention to static moment in time visual elements rather than some kind of a narrative through line of lived experience. We used to joke about this. I guess maybe we still do everywhere, like how do you represent, showing a student in an online course? I mean, there's only so many students sitting in front of a computer, pictures that you can,
right.
And so the video tour thing, and I remember, some version of what you were talking about, like, so you could have, here's an instructor saying something, and then here's like a clicking through elements of an online course. And so you can kind of bring some of that to life. But guided tours run the risk of being kind of boring and not reflective of the lived experience of the students either. So those are, and then nobody has any attention span for anything. And
then the purpose for those, was because we had heard, particularly from some of our adult learners who had never taken an online class, who were coming back to school after 20 years or something, that there was a lot of kind of anxiety about, can I do this? What is this? I don't know. Right. And so it was really just to say, look, this is all it is. There's a real human being who built this course, who's behind this, who's there interacting with you, and this is what you can expect. And it was really just to kind of dispel some of that anxiety. Now, there are lots of other reasons to do these kinds of courses, but that one in particular, the course tours seemed to work better than just sticking them in a sample module and just kind of work your way through it.
Yeah, I do think that there's a lot of value in video, but boy, I'm gonna put a wheelbarrow full of asterisks after that statement. I think we're kind of used to video. I think videos have run times, which we can work to shorten, but for whatever purpose and with whatever audience in mind, to actually do any version of the conveyance that we're talking about, of intent and experience, that takes a level of artfulness and digital storytelling and production quality that kind of isn't for the faint of heart.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. It's a commitment and an investment of resources and time, and to make it good, it takes talent, right? So videos don't just happen, and you can't do it on Zoom. The idea of a sizzle reel, we've talked about that. I'm a big fan of that, especially if you're showing your president or chancellor or a board member or something. Here's what online learning's about. And you have a 60-second sizzle reel of look at these cool interactions and things are being dragged, and you've got videos and wow, online learning's awesome. It's so dynamic.
Oh,
right?
Boy. Oh,
you can do that. And none of it's a lie, right? It's all legitimate stuff in online courses, but you're trying to present a certain package.
That's right. And I think, I don't know how I want to frame that. I'll just say what I was thinking. We've all been guilty of that to some extent or another. I don't know if guilty is quite the right word, but I mean, that's a certain presentation, right? It's a certain attention getting whatever, even though, that's X percent of any asynchronous online course, right?
Sure.
At the risk of digressing for a second, this, our listeners might not. Once upon a time, 20 years ago, I wrote a dissertation that, kind of touched on some of this stuff. It was really about forming a qualitative research case study model, kind of built on the so-called educational criticism of curriculum theorist and scholar Elliot Eisner, who I think ended his career at Stanford University. Eisner, coming from like an arts education background, really interesting stuff. We were talking about coffee competitions and connoisseurship and all, and that's where Eisner lived, right? This connoisseurship and criticism and subtleties and making evident and all of that stuff. So I tried to apply that 20 years ago in the online course context, and with an eye toward making it easy for scholarly practitioners like us to actually be able to successfully produce and publish article-length portrayals of online courses. Well, if the existence of those is any indication of the success of my dissertation, I think it failed, because I don't know of any that have been published following that model. But at its crux, the idea of trying to portray the lived experience of an online course, I think I was onto something. It's just that we don't do it very well.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I'm sure that there are some places that do it well. Maybe some of the bigger online universities that's all they do, and kind of onboard. That's part of the onboarding process. In some places, you can even get like earned admission by succeeding in some of these courses that kind of begin almost as a free sample that you can kind of try and see if you can be successful at. Lower stakes until you're accepted, but in many ways it's like you figuring out, can I do this? I wonder if you should revisit some of that research these many years later.
I reread this. The language I used was called the portrayal of kind of the story, if you will, a narrative through line from an exemplary online course. I revisited that recently in preparation for this, and I mean, even though it's some of the references are dated, like some of the screenshots and some of the tool use, I mean, in some ways it holds up. But boy, it took a lot to get to that portrayal. A lot of this qualitative research case study methodology of making the familiar strange and the strange familiar, and just living in the qualitative data and taking notes and having theoretical constructs that you're looking through and all. Not many people are looking to sign up for that in order to, present something. But maybe there are some lessons to be learned. And I think a lot of it is, I've overused this illustration through the years. Quite literally, earlier this week, I said this to a colleague. I have personally been at an elementary school before, like the day before school started, and have been walking through like a kindergarten classroom. Those are interesting environments, right? They're colorful, and they're just filled with possibility, right? And all the stuff's on the walls and on the little tables, and you can just feel everything poised to spring into action. But if all that you were looking at was that designed experience, that designed environment rather, preparing for the experience to follow, you've missed something. It's actually in the lived experience when the kids show up.
Right.
That all the magic happens. Right.
Yeah.
And I think in our world, we spend so much time talking about design, like that's it.
Yeah.
It's like an upbeat, a perpetual upbeat. And then nothing happens, right?
That's an interesting observation. Yeah, I think about my own experience teaching online classes where you can create genuine community in an asynchronous threaded discussion forum. That becomes super dynamic and people really connect. Yeah. And I've seen it happen. Yeah. And you only experience that if you're in it.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Some
so how do you
things have to
communicate
be,
that? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So like in that portrayal thing in the dissertation, I tried to find a way in, right? And so there was like this particular class, there was some group work, and I was able to look through the, transcripts of even like online chat, of like a small group, and like that was my in. It's like it was just after it was on or right after Halloween, and these team members are doing a thing, and so I came into that, and then flashed back to a week or two before, and a flash forward to how they're getting in the, and it kind of told a short story through their experience, but tried to evoke the whole, in the midst of that. But we don't do that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't do that a lot. And I think we need to stretch ourselves to figure, how do we, and this is kind of Elliot Eisner's thing, those of us who've been around this work for a long time, we know stuff. So you could call us connoisseurs, but to make evident for the uninitiated, that's the work, he would say, of critics, of criticism, is you make public and you bring along the uninitiated and help them appreciate. Now, I'm not trying to make it over high-blown stuff. That was the dissertation. I'm thinking about, practically, how do you do that in a very short attention span of a minute or two?
Yeah.
That's a thing. So I don't know if you do a deep dive of sorts like I did, and then you work out like a kind of a script, and then you kind of have a student eye view of an experience. If you take an artful video producer like producer Tim, who's behind the scenes here, and turn him loose on something like that, maybe you get something exceptional.
Yeah, I think it ultimately, because I teach technical writing, a lot of it boils down to audience analysis. Like, who is the audience? What is the purpose of the thing you're building? What's the objective? And then that will probably drive the treatment in many ways. And I think we probably need to boil it down to that. But that's not to say that there aren't, assets that live in every expression of that, whether it's a video or a full course or a one module or a sample where things pop in. That same asset can kind of live, the thing that's being featured in all of those. But I think each audience, each purpose is going to be a little bit different, going to require a slightly different approach.
Yeah, and I guess we would be remiss too. Articulations of course design standards and teaching standards are yet another way of, perhaps reductionistically, expressing intent as well. Abstracted from the particular, right? You're trying to genericize something and like, oh, these are the things that we are expecting to occur in an online course. And you go, oh, your standards are high, whatever. There's right. That kind of thing. Can I pick at your team's intent a little bit?
Yeah, quickly, because the coffee's running out.
Here, I've pondered this since we talked about this before. I get the aspirational thing of the model course, the constructed model course. But the one thing that I worry about is that it's a fiction, right? It's a constructed model.
Yeah, not to interrupt you, but I totally agree. And that was a bit of the pushing that I get. You and I have very similar instincts, Kelvin. And what they're going to try to do is identify an opportunity in an actual course with an actual faculty member and build something that will be used. But we're going to kind of initiate it and identify somebody. So it's not like we're building something that is just living only in the sample course. Now, the sample course may have been sort of the catalyst for it, but it will be hopefully something that is actually in a genuine course.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. And then, there is something to be said for true sample courses. This takes a level of vulnerability, but a willing instructor to offer up their admittedly imperfect lived experience kind of course for sharing with others, and maybe in some kind of an annotative way, convey some of what they were shooting for. Boy, that takes a level of transparency and vulnerability and risk, but that's powerful in its own way for a certain audience.
Yeah, and maybe the last thing I'll say is that I think you can also, kind of from an administrative standpoint, you can also really, I think, give a boost to some faculty members by showcasing their work in a way that it wasn't originally intended to. And I think of two examples. One is like when we've had regional accreditation coming on campus and doing their site visit and they want to look at online classes, we try to pick good ones. And we tell the faculty members, we think yours is a good course. We want to show the accreditor that this is what we do. And I think that's a boost for them and their department. And the other is, you may recall, when Bill and Melinda Gates and their team came, we had, mostly me, had to figure out, what are we going to put in front of Bill Gates? And who are we going to stand in front of him? And what are we going to show him so that he gets an impression of UCF? And we picked some stuff that I thought was pretty good and some faculty who were pretty good. Yeah. And I think they were very proud to stand up and do that and get that kind of national publicity.
Yeah, I think all that's right. And maybe I'll just say this, right? Just to put a button on it, not everyone has experienced a good online course. And online course means different things to different people, and good means different things to different people. And so that's a lot of the crux of the matter is, how do you express both good and online course for the audience at hand in order to kind of deliver on the communication challenge before you?
Yeah. All right, shall I try to bring us in for a landing?
Yeah.
So, Kelvin, even after all of these years, we still have work to do in raising the bar on awareness and appreciation for stakeholders on what excellence in online course design and online teaching and learning actually look like. So it's up to us as digital learning professionals to keep working at it.
Yeah, I think that's right. So let's go do that. We're all going to go put our coffee cups down and go work at it right now. So I enjoyed the conversation, and I really wish I could be share this coffee with you. It's an excellent cup of coffee. Listeners should go buy a bag and support recovery efforts in LA. But you would like it, I think.
I'm sure I would. Yeah, I appreciate the intent.
Well, until next time for Topcast, I'm Kelvin.
And I'm Tom.
See you.